Hey, good morning, more Medic One. Hey, back on the 280S that we were working on the other day with the wore out engine, and I just kind of want to go back over the reason this engine burned up is because of dirt ingestion. As you can see, look at all that grit just right here in the crankcase. Sand and oil mixed together makes a liquid compound, kind of like jeweler's rouge or valve lapping compound, and it will just absolutely wear an engine out. We are going to repair this trimmer with a new short block. I just so happen to have one left. Part number is 1091. We've already got, most of the trimmer tore down already. So let's start by removing the starter. Just 4 screws, one here, one diagonal from it, and 3 and 4. Go ahead and flip the trimmer over, and we got one more starter screw right here. So you might as well go ahead and take off the screws here for the gas tank strap, and we'll remove the fuel system and the starter at the same time. At this point, just go ahead and remove the starter and just set it off to the side. Get you a big old swig of Java. Now we can remove the gas tank and carburetor. We're going to basically leave everything hooked up so that we don't have any fuel leaks all over the bench. Leave your throttle cable hooked up as well. You can just literally take this and move it to the side. Swing that out of the way. Next order of business, we are going to remove the little debris shield on the side of the engine block here. No big deal, just one Phillips screw. Making note of the keel wire is hooked to this screw here as well. And then set that off to the side. Go ahead and remove your starter pawl. After you get the nut off, just take you something long. Rotate that piston down like so, right on top of that screwdriver. Whoop, look at there, didn't even need a wrench, it just came off by finger tight. Go ahead and remove the ignition system. Echo's pretty consistent with their hardware as far as length and the size of the tool. You can pretty much take everything apart with just an Allen wrench or a T27. There is the ignition. You can go ahead and clean that up if you like. Now just start removing the engine block from the fan housing. Just 4 screws, one here, one on the other side, and 2 more on the bottom. Go ahead and remove the engine from the fan housing. Sometimes it takes a little bit of twisting to get the engine off of its locating pins, but it'll come right out. Go ahead and inspect your clutch. This one looks pretty new, so it's had a new one put on recently. All right, go ahead and remove the clutch, just 13 millimeter. Same with the flywheel nut, 13 millimeter. I like to take the nut now and just reinstall it on the back side and just give it a couple of wraps, and that flywheel should fall right off. Boom. Check and make sure your flywheel key is good, not twisted out. Check the flywheel key on the engine itself. Look at all this wrapped around this crank here. All this string is bad. When it gets into these seals, it'll cut these seals right out of here. All right, well, our short block is out of there, buddy. All right, let's get this new short block opened up and I'll show you guys what's in here. Of course, you'll have the new engine assembly. Everything comes already pre-built for you. Cylinder head, piston, everything's brand new. All right, so we're going to just start basically reassembling. The last thing that you took off will be the first thing that you put on. So we're going to go ahead and take this flywheel. We're going to make sure that the mating surface down here is not all corroded. If it is, need to clean it. Make sure the keyways are lined up, and then slide the flywheel on the crankshaft. Go ahead and give it a couple ugga-duggas. Go ahead and clean all the rust off of your clutch bolts. Now, if you have forgotten which way you took the clutch off, don't worry, because there's an arrow right here. That arrow goes to the outside and it tells you the direction of the engine. Now you need to pay special attention. You have 2 thin wave washers and then 2 thicker thrust washers. Go ahead and clean those up. Go ahead and slide the wave washer down over the bolt like this, with the wave portion sticking out. See how that wave washer's cupped a little? So just go ahead and slide it over the bolt like that, and don't drop it. Alrighty, got the clutch and the flywheel installed. Now we are ready to slide the engine onto the fan housing. making note that your locating pins are going to go here and here. Just like that. Looking like a weed eater already. Just run your attaching hardware. Just finger tight it for now. So once we get all of the blower shroud and everything on and lined up, then we'll go ahead and then we'll tighten up the engine mounting screws at the very end. Now we're going to go ahead and install the ignition module. Go ahead and slide your bolts through, because on the back side, now on this model you have these little phenolic spacers that go on the bolts like that. Some models don't have these and some do. Just go ahead and get the bolts cinched up, but don't tighten them, because we need to set the air gap between the flywheel and the ignition module. So once you get the screws run in, what we're going to do is loosen the screws up and literally pull up on the ignition and just tighten one screw. So on this particular model, you have a blower shroud post right in the way of getting your coil mounted. So I just take a business card and I tear it in half. And I slide it right. Well, first you want to get your magnet. And then I slide the business card right down between the coil and the flywheel. Get it right underneath of both legs of the coil, and then we're going to loosen the coil. So loosen up your screws, and then we're going to push down on the coil, and then just tighten your screws back. And that is about the most simple way to get the gap on your ignition module. Now you can just pull out your little card there and you're good to go. Go ahead and install the little debris shield here. Just kind of clips in right here on the engine block. Kind of push everything together at once. And it'll sit right in place. And reinstall the attaching screw. The new short block is going to come with some new gaskets. We have a new intake gasket, carburetor mounting gasket, and the new muffler heat shield gasket. Let's go ahead and get this broke open and get these gaskets out of here. We're going to go ahead and install the intake manifold. These intake manifolds you need to watch, because sometimes they'll crack and then they'll have a vacuum leak. I like to go over to the desk over here that has a glass top and just put a little bit of 120 grit sandpaper and sand both sides, just to make sure that it's flat all the way across on both sides of the spacer. they'll also warp, but them coming loose while you're using the trimmer is a big deal too. So what I'll do is I'll put me just a little bit of Loctite on the mounting screws before I mount it to the engine. It's crucial that you get this gasket mounted on there right. Now, I've done this in the past and I caught my mistake before I put it together. This gasket can be put on several different ways, but you just want to make sure that the impulse hole in the phenolic spacer and the impulse for the gasket and the engine all line up. There's the impulse for the engine right here. All right, we got the intake manifold, making sure that our gasket is in the right orientation. Good to go. Got a little red Loctite on the screws. It ain't going back out of there. Go ahead and spin your starter pawl on. Now this doesn't have to be super tight, so just take you a pair of slip joint pliers and just give it a and that's tight enough, because whenever you tighten up the backing bolt nut, there's no flipping way that it can come off. And just give that a couple of ugga-duggas. All right, let's go ahead and install the muffler. Slide your studs into the cylinder head there. Slide your new gasket and there's one thing I forgot to do. Right here on the old short block, you'll reuse this muffler attaching screw here. So just go ahead and back it all the way out. And we're going to reinstall it on the new short block right here. You screw it in about 3/4 of the way and just leave it. Because whenever we mount this muffler, it's cut out to where you don't have to take the screw all the way out. Slide the muffler down over your studs. Get my big fat hand out of the way. It should look something like that. And then the attaching screw there. And just install your washers. And then your nuts. And that is good to go once you get those cinched down. I like to tighten my muffler bolts first, and then I'll come in here and tighten the muffler attaching screw. We'll flip the engine upside down, and now we're going to reinstall the fuel system and starter. Now leave these bolts kind of loose because you still have to mount the starter, and you want enough room right here to slide the starter in, so don't tighten these up yet. But you can get them started. Slide your starter on and go ahead and start this bolt, but don't tighten it either. This will kind of help hold your starter in place. And then reinstall your 4 starter screws. Put the wrong screw in for this debris shield, guys, so I'm going to swap it out. This is the screw that holds the front of the blower shroud on. We'll install the right screw here. Go ahead and install the carburetor up against the intake manifold. Go ahead and install your spark plug. And it's almost, well, you could actually see if it would fire off right now. It's ready to go for a test. Go ahead and install a new air filter. Slide our engine cover on. These can be a pain in the butt sometimes, but especially when they've been dropped. Come on now. Somebody's got the little fuel tank vent just a little bit short. It's supposed to go up in this little holder right here. I'll have to install me a longer hose, it looks like. And then lastly, we'll install the muffler guard. And install your screws, one here and one on the other side where the engine fan housing is. So the muffler guard actually attaches through one of the fan housing bolts. I don't know why they put such a long screw in this hole, but there is, it's long-winded. It's the same screw for the other side as well. Give everything a snug. Hey, we got the SRM 280 going one more time. Hey, I enjoyed doing this video for y'all. So if you got something out of this, give me a thumbs up and smash that subscribe button. And while you're there subscribing, go ahead and click that bell so you'll get all my new videos. Y'all have a good Thursday. More of it, Kwan.